Behind every great product, it's not just some big, brilliant idea. There's a secret architecture, a really methodical process for turning that initial spark into something you can actually use. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain and see exactly how that happens.
Right? I mean, how do you get from a huge, fuzzy idea like, let's make the website better, all the way down to a specific button that does a specific thing? Well, the answer lies in something we're going to call the golden thread of logic. It's this beautiful connection that traces a high-level goal all the way down to the tiniest detail. And in this explainer, we're going to follow that thread from the very beginning to the very end. Every single project, and I mean every single one, has to begin with one simple but absolutely critical question. Why? Why are we even doing this? This is all about nailing down the core business objective. And that why has a name. It's the business requirement. Before anyone even thinks about writing code or mocking up a design, a business analyst, or a BA, sits down with the leaders to get this crystal clear. This becomes the North Star for the entire project. Everything else will point back to this. And this is where we make that why official. So let's take an example that will follow all the way through. Reduce call center wait times by 30%. See? All of a sudden, that goal isn't fuzzy anymore. It's specific and it's measurable. From this moment on, every single decision has to somehow help achieve this outcome. This is the very first link in our golden thread. So how does a BA even get started? Well, they enter what's called the prepare phase. Think of them as detectives here. First, they figure out who has a stake in this project, who cares about it. Then they map out a plan, and they start digging around, doing background research to really understand the current systems, and more importantly, the current pain points. This is all about getting ready to ask the right questions later. Okay, so we've got our why, that big business goal, but to actually get there, we have to understand who this project is for and what they really need. And this is where it gets real. This is what we call a stakeholder requirement. It's the voice of the customer, loud and clear. And notice how it connects directly to our main goal. If customers can just check their policy details online, they won't have to call in, which of course helps reduce those call center wait times. See the connection? So you see, a stakeholder requirement isn't just some random item on a wish list. No, it's a specific need that directly serves that big business goal we defined right at the start. Our golden thread is getting stronger. Now, to find these needs, BAs jump into the conduct phase. And this is a real skill. It isn't just about asking questions. It's about active listening, running workshops to get people talking, and using all these cool techniques to draw out what people really need, not just what they say they want. And then, of course, they write it all down and double-check it to make sure they got it right. Okay, so we know why we're doing this project, and we know what our users need. So the next logical step, right, is to start designing how we're going to build something that actually meets those needs. And this brings us to solution requirements. This is where things start getting a little more technical. The BA works with a solution architect to define exactly what the system has to do. For instance, for a customer to see their policy online, well, the system first needs to let them log in safely and securely. And right here, this is the perfect illustration of that golden thread we've been talking about. Each requirement is a direct answer to the one that came just before it. It's a chain of logic. You see how it connects? The requirement for a login system doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It exists for one reason, to let the stakeholder check their policy online, which in turn helps reduce call center wait times. It's all connected. It's a beautiful thing. We are getting so close. We have a high-level design, but you can't just go to a developer and say, hey, build a login system. We need to break it down into small, manageable, actually buildable chunks. And this is where something called a user story comes in. It's a tiny, self-contained piece of functionality, always written from the user's point of view. A whole login system is actually made up of lots of these little stories, like creating an account, logging in, and of course, a way to reset your password when you forget it. So now at the build phase, these user stories give the development team the nitty-gritty details they need to actually write the code. And you guessed it, each and every user story traces directly back to a piece of that bigger solution requirement. That password reset feature, it's just one part of the overall login system. So in this final wrap-up phase, right before the building begins, the BA analyzes and prioritizes all these stories, I mean, maybe a password reset is way more important to build first than, say, changing a profile picture. They get the final okay, the sign-off from the stakeholders, and then they clearly hand over these build-ready instructions to the developers. All right, the feature is built, the code is written. So we're done, right? Not quite. There's one final, absolutely crucial step. We have to prove that what we built actually solves the problem we started with way back at the beginning. This is called user acceptance testing, or UAT. And here, we create test scenarios that basically mirror the user stories. We don't just test if a button works. No, we test if a real customer can actually achieve their goal. Like, can they successfully reset their password and then log in? This is what validates the entire chain all the way back to the start. And so, here it is, all tied together. The whole process creates this perfect traceable line. It goes from the why, the business goals and the user needs, all the way to the how, the detailed solution that actually gets built. It directly connects a massive business objective to a tiny little feature. And that's it. That is the golden thread that makes sure great teams are always building the right thing at the right time. So the question I want to leave you with is this. In your own work, whatever it is you do, can you trace that golden thread from your day-to-day tasks all the way back up to your organization's biggest goals? Think about it. Thanks for watching.